Good evening, everybody. It is another episode of Scarves and Spikes here as we get ready to finally make it back to the season. Leagues Cup is almost over. Messi has almost finished the script and won it all because we all know how that's going to go. I am Tyler Pilgrim here alongside Sydney Hunt and Tommy Moose. We have a lot going on, but what's up, guys?
What's up? I feel, it's been forever since the Lady United have played, almost 3 weeks. So looking forward to that. Just before we started recording, hit record, came out, I guess not before because the news had come out earlier in the day, but looks like Vlatko is resigning. So
yeah,
that's noteworthy.
Their head coach.
Oh no.
Yeah. Man. Darn
not
it.
Surprising. Yeah. But just a little sidebar. But I'm looking forward to Atlanta United soccer, guys. Finally.
Yeah.
How's it going with you?
Atlanta United after dark soccer.
That's right.
That means things that could get weird.
Remember that RSL match? Was it RSL or the Rapids? It was RSL, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was RSL. So I don't know. Hopefully it's nothing like that, but never know. After 10:30 Eastern time, things get weird, like Tommy said. So
yes. We have a lot planned. Coming up. Obviously, with Patreon, as you guys know, if you're if you're not already a part of it, make sure you go check it out. Patreon.com/scarves and spikes. And we have some news to go along with that as well. We've been kind of teasing it for a while now, and it's all come to fruition, guys. We're trying our best. This is a 3-man show, it's a 3-man operation. And all of us are working full-time jobs, by the way. I don't know if you guys understand that, but as of
yes,
like 20 minutes ago, relatively speaking, our website is up and running, scarvesandspikes.com.
Yes, it is.
Keep it simple.
That's right.
Not .net?
Not .net.
Not .net.
Or edu.
.gov?
I was trying to stay away from the .gov.
I don't know if we could pull off the .gov. At least not this time. But scarvesandspikes.com looks really good. Just launched, and definitely more to come. We'll be adding stuff on there all the time. So please stop by. Let us know what you think. And yeah, really excited to see what comes of it. I know we've been working on it for a while. Tyler's been working on it for a while, and shout out to him for getting us up and running. But yes, scarvesandspikes.com, and yes, please visit and
go check it out.
Yes.
So you guys know we have been a part of Dirty South Soccer. That's not going anywhere. Like we're still doing everything with Dirty South. But we needed our own online presence as well, besides like YouTube as a main place for people to go visit. So this will be the place where you can go and kind of have our hub for everything. It'll be news that we feel like posting that we're going to be doing articles as well, but also all of our shows will be posted there after the fact. You got links to all of our pertinent stuff, and this is the other part of the 2-part surprise. We have our shop up and running. The store is live.
The store is live. I have to make sure I get the URL right. Scarvesandspikes.etsy.com. Scarvesandspikes.etsy.com. And it's starting out as just our stickers at this current point in time. So we're officially, as of now, selling the stickers. We've been talking about them. They've been in hand for a while. We're now finally in position to sell those. So we'll be doing that on our Etsy store. So please, if you like what you hear, if you like what you watch every week, please support us that way. Only a few dollars, and that really goes a long way for us. So, yes, scarvesandspikes.etsy.com. We'll post the links in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast, and we have it in the chat if you're watching us live. So please, if you feel led to, if you appreciate what we're doing, that'll really help us out. So, scarvesandspikes.etsy.com. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
In advance.
And as a quick final point, if you are on Patreon, by the time this show is over tonight on Wednesday, you will have your 10% discount code, because that was another perk of being a patron. So
yes, that's why you become a patron, right? Support us on Patreon. Reasons like that. So
what it's all about.
And the Discord. And the watch along.
And the Discord and the watch along. By the way, we're doing watch along on Sunday night, aren't we?
After dark, baby.
After dark. And did we decide on the coffee yet? I forget what it's called.
Goats, man.
Dancing Goats. That's what it's called.
Yeah, Dancing Goats.
Cool.
I think that'll be the drink of choice as we descend into chaos.
So that's coming up, and for our patrons. So a lot of ways to experience Scarves and Spikes. If you're not watching on Wednesday night or not listening to the podcast, you can experience us every day of the week.
Tommy, you look like you're about to say something. What you got?
Oh, I was gonna say, don't forget the secret menu on Etsy. If you want Tyler or Sydney to come out to your home and mow your lawn, that's only $100. Get the discount. It's only $90, but it is a secret menu item.
I have a
don't forget about
half-mile radius.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, really excited for it.
Time for us for sure, and yeah, we had to get it all. We've been working on it for a while. The stickers are the first of many things that we're gonna be doing. So it's not just stickers, but stickers is what we got right now. So we appreciate the support. We appreciate everything that you guys do for us. So with that, we have still a very busy episode. We got a lot of news to talk about. We have a very special guest coming on from Apple TV/MLS, Francisco X Rivera, who will be doing the play-by-play in the Seattle-Atlanta match in Spanish come Sunday. We also just got done, again, Patreon. Quick plug again. We talked to Jeremiah O'Shan from Sounder at Heart, which is Dirty South Soccer's sister website that covers, obviously, the Sounders. So really, really good insight from him. And we're going to touch on something I really want to hit on in a minute, a point that he made during that episode. But for now, what do you want to dive into first? Because we have a lot.
Let's get to the news, and I think we should start out with. I feel like the thing we should start out with is, Tommy. What do you think we should start out with? I'll ask you.
Okay. I've had
Are you
this
sure?
MLS gift card burning a hole in my pocket, and that pocket's going to continue to burn because there's no way I am buying that kit. No way.
So, yeah,
51% of the people agree with me on our Twitter vote.
Yeah, or X vote, whatever it's called now. But so what? 223 people voted, and yeah, like you said, Tommy, just over 50% don't like it. So I don't know, Tyler. Tommy? We know your thoughts, but Tyler, what do you think?
Can I say why?
Well,
yes,
yeah, go. Yeah, tell us why.
the color scheme's okay, and I guess it's been out there. Like they actually showed us exactly what it was going to look like. Like it's on the I don't know exactly where this is graffitied. Tyler, I think you mentioned you know where it is, right?
Yeah.
Where's it at?
It's down at I think Krog Street
Okay.
Market. I believe it's
okay.
where it's at, yeah.
But like it says UTD on top and then ATL below it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's weird. That part just bugs me. I'm not reading from bottom to top. Like that just seems weird. I don't know. I really haven't seen the back of it. But I don't know. I don't. It's just too busy, and I think it's probably out of all the third kits, this is the worst one, as far as all of MLS right now. Looks better as a practice kit than an actual third kit.
I'll say this: it's not as bad as the Captain America kits. Granted, those were training tops.
Yes,
but I feel like those were very well executed. I'll say this about the third kits: I don't hate them, but they aren't really the style that I would get personally. They don't really fit kind of the style that I like. So that's just my 2 cents. That being said, I can understand why people don't like them. Tommy, I can understand why you don't like it. And it looks like a lot of people on social media, well, not a lot, but a lot of opinions on social media are leaning toward the negative about it. So I feel like it's a matter of taste and a matter of preference. It's just not up my alley personally, but I can see where some people would be interested in getting it. So
yeah,
I feel like it's a one-off thing, and I wouldn't be surprised, and they'll be announced in a few days here. I wouldn't be surprised maybe if there's some charity aspect tied to it to support the city of Atlanta. It's a collab with Atlanta Influences Everything, which I don't think is a nonprofit. I think it's a for-profit organization. But at the same time, I feel like there'll be a kind of a tie-in supporting the city along with it. So that's just kind of what I think. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the kit itself, like I'm kind of indifferent about it. Like I think I like where they were trying to go with it. It just came across maybe a little flat. I don't know. It's not something I wouldn't spend $200 on it, and I like the direction that they were trying to go with Atlanta and with Goody Mob and everything else that they had going on with it. It just didn't quite come across with, like, it's too busy and not detailed enough at the same time, like
I follow that.
Yeah. There's just like a tweak there that would have made it better. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, I know a lot of folks online were saying, Adidas, which has the kit rights at MLS for the foreseeable future, didn't really execute it well. So these kits, I mean, it's every 2-year thing. It's not a one-off. It'll be worn at different parts of this season, maybe once or twice this season,
and that's my caveat.
Next season, yeah.
Next season maybe? Cool, because they only wore the bacon kit that 1 year.
I mean, I could be wrong.
Well, either way, I mean, I think every kit that they've had over the past few years, the Forest kit, I know some people can't stand it. I actually kind of like it. It's not my favorite. But you see a lot more details when it's actually worn in a real environment, and you see it in a real environment, but especially like when you have players playing in it, I think there's something to be, had there maybe. So like I did with every other kit, I'm going to reserve my full judgment until I see it, at least in person, not on a picture, that Goody Mob is wearing. But it's just not my favorite. Not awful. Definitely not the worst kit that they've ever done, for sure. But it's just not my favorite.
Tommy,
if it was discounted,
go ahead.
I'd buy it. I would say if it was like a large discount at the end of the year and it was like 50% off, then yeah, maybe I'd get it. But especially with the increase of MLS jerseys this season, it's just not for me right now.
And real quick, because you were talking about like what everybody else has said, just in our chat, and I'm just going to roll through it real quick. Parzival, that kid is trash. Emilio, third kit blinds my eyes. Let's see.
We see Mark and X1L, yeah.
Definitely not for me. What's that about Mark?
No, I was just saying. Mark says he'll buy one. D Graham saying not a fan. Bruno saying the idea is great, execution meh. So very varying opinions about the kit, and I'm sure we'll see even more varying opinions on social media leading up to the official launch. So, like you said on Twitter, about 50% of the people that took our survey, out of 200 plus people, said they don't like it, and
that we did the puking. We did the puke emoji.
the puke emoji.
We
to be
don't say they
specific.
didn't like it. They were puking.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, puke emoji definitely. But yeah, I wanted to ask you, Tommy, what are you going to do with your knockoff kit that you got from China?
You know,
So where are you going to?
Who knows what's going to happen with it? I mean, you do have the Olympics are still coming to Atlanta, so who knows if that's maybe even something that comes down the line. Or I'm sorry, the World Cup, not the Olympics. I'm sorry, never mind. Just ignore me. I rushed. No, I don't know what they're gonna do with that. If they do anything, I hope, if anything, now I hope it's not involved in any possible way, because next year we've already got the forest kit, right, which is like that light greenish, whatever, teal color. So like that's already there. So no, like I hope this kit's just something that, you know, some people bought it from China. It's their special thing, and that's it. But we need something different next year. So I know we weren't planning on this, but if there was a color for next season for the away kit, we've gone through quite a few, right? What are you thinking next season for an away kit? Just colors. Like, are you thinking of like a specific color? Is there something you'd like?
I would like to see something more prominent with the gold. I think that's like the one that they really haven't hit on as much, you know?
Like the whole thing gold?
Yeah, I mean, maybe
Like,
not the whole
instead of the
thing.
white and gold that we already had, the King's kit.
Yeah, I mean, because like that one just ran together. But do something with, and again, I'm a visual person. Like I could describe something, it'd probably come out looking like burnt toast or something. But like, I just want gold to be featured prominently, and then with the red and the black as the, you know, secondary and third colors.
We haven't had an all black kit. You're just throwing it out there. So maybe black with the king
stripes. But
yeah. And just looking ahead real quick, I would imagine the 2025 third kit will be some tribute to the World Cup, because it'll be that year 2025 and then 2026 they'll wear it. So I'd imagine, you know, something in line with that, in line with the World Cup, will be in store, because, you know, these are a 2-year rotation. So we'll be on the lookout for that. But yeah,
they should use
official
pink, and then maybe we'll get to sign whoever we want to.
That's a
I had to.
different topic for a different show. All right, so that's the kit.
That is the kit. Moving forward. We got some rumors. Miles Robinson and Thiago Almada. You'll have heard, I think. And they kind of came and went really quickly, like Atlanta United in the Leagues Cup. But what do you guys think? Where do y'all want to go? I'm sorry, I'm on one today.
You're kind of spicy.
Almada's not happening. The Almada, you're not taking a loss. I understand there's a huge sell-off clause, you know, a resell, but no, that's absolutely not happening.
Yeah, I don't know. Whoever put that rumor out initially, I don't know why they would think that it was a realistic offer. I saw Joe Patrick, I think it was on Twitter, theorizing that Almeria, the club, and La Liga that are reportedly interested in him, probably planted that story to make it seem like they're being ambitious, which, I mean, wouldn't be out of the question. But at the same time, when you're looking for like, what, 10 million, something for half of his rights, that's absurd. And if it were an official offer, an actual offer, Atlanta United, I would think, to give it the time of day, just throw it away. It's not happening at 10 million. 20 million for 50% of his rights, maybe. 15, maybe, but not 10 million. I mean, come on. Let's be realistic.
I think it depends on the team, right? Like with the the sell-on percentage, because you want him to go somewhere where he has the potential to then move on, and you don't want him to go somewhere and get stuck, right? He should be going to a Champions League team. We've talked about it before. He has that talent. Now it's just a matter of what is Atlanta going to do, though, because it very much seems like Garth Lagerwey is all about trying to keep him as much as possible. And we've been talking all year about, oh, well, he could be gone in the summer. Well, that didn't happen. And we all kind of expect the winter time is for sure when it's going to happen. But the way that Atlanta United in general as a club is talking is that they're trying to hang on to him as long as they possibly can. So I think that offer that comes for Thiago Almada, it better be a banger. And $10 million ain't going to do it. I don't care what the sell-on percentage is, because that's a gamble. You want cash now, but you should also be able to then gather that sell-on percentage regardless of what the initial offer is. I mean, yes, I understand there's some bargaining there, but $10 million is not even a starting point. It's got to be higher than that.
Yeah, and Garth has been consistent since he's come in. We want to build a team around Almada. That was like the first thing that he said, because people were immediately asking him, like, do you plan on getting rid of this world-class player, one of the best players in MLS? No, we preferred to build around him. We all thought that was talk. Messi comes into the league, his hero, right? You know, he's Messi Jr. So what do they right? How do they offer him going forward? Do they offer him a pay increase? Do they, try to extend the contract and give him more money? That's what's interesting here is what they're going to do. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, and not really official talk from anyone big, but everybody's really thinking that there's going to be some type of rule at the end of this year, a change in the salary cap. How is this going to affect it? And this could affect a Miles Robinson. This can affect an Almada. Can you go and give these guys a little bit more money, extend their contracts, pay these guys more money? That's what you really hope for. And I think that maybe that's kind of just where they're sitting right now, is hoping that they are able to be a little bit more ambitious and give these guys some money to keep them in MLS and keep them on Atlanta United. I think that's what we hope. But I don't know. I don't really know what the plan here is. But do you agree? Like, do you think that if the rules change, they could restructure his contract and give him more money?
Yeah, I was going to ask. I mean, I guess, what does Thiago think? He said when asked about it in the past, I'm focused on Atlanta, which is fair. At the same time, he has to be thinking about his future, right? And I assume he and his agent feel that he has a future in Europe if and when it happens. Right now, it's more of a matter of when, I think, rather than if. But I feel like this is a player that feels his future is in Europe. Having said that, maybe, Tommy, you kind of hit on it, maybe with MLS looking to let clubs open up the purse strings a little bit more, possibly a fourth DP spot, higher salary cap or something like that. Maybe, yeah, if you're able to give him a really, really significant offer. Granted, I don't think anything that Atlanta United offers would be an issue for some of the bigger clubs in Europe to match. I mean, Napoli, we've heard, is a club that's linked to Almada. So while it would be nice that he stays in MLS and with Messi, let me go back to my point, though, about the point I was trying to make. If MLS kind of opens things up and lets teams maybe spend a little bit more money, the quality of player that comes over to the league will be that much better as a result. So you have Messi here, you have Busquets here, Jordi Alba, other players that have been maybe looking to make a move. Antoine Griezmann, it has said that he could be interested in MLS at some point. But MLS in its current form needs to open up, let clubs open up the purse strings and spend more money in order to make that happen, to hold on to talent they feel can make a significant impact on this league and boost its status on a global scale. So interested to see what those enhancements and what those adjustments end up looking like.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little tougher to predict now than it was 3 months ago. I think 3 months ago, everybody's looking at this and thinking, all right, well, certainly, like, he's too good to be here. Well, best player in the world is not too good to be in MLS now. So, and all of his buddies. So that, and then there is the rumor now that MLS is thinking about changing things up a little bit, with the roster structure and rules and everything else. So if I'm Almada, then I'm thinking, all right, well, if the right club comes along, then sure, like, I still want to be in Europe. He's still young enough that he could play here for 2 more years and still make a big move to Europe. It's not like he's just coming up on that point where it's not really feasible. I mean, look at Miles. Miles is attracting some rumors, maybe not as many as we thought, but I mean, at his age, he's on the tail end of maybe what most European clubs are looking for in terms of a move from overseas. So it's not as easy to predict as it was. I like you said, Sydney, I think, yeah, he's going to go. Just it's a matter of when. And I don't know necessarily that when is going to be this winter time like we initially thought. It all depends on who comes calling. But you got to think too, European clubs, most of the rest of the world, their big transfer window just is right now. It just passed essentially. So I don't know, unless they've got something lined up, that you're going to get a better offer in the wintertime. Now, the rest of the world also knows that is when, if you're going to go pick somebody out of MLS, that's probably the better time because it's the end of the season. But it's kind of, it's just a tougher thing than it was a few months ago. So I hope he stays around as long as we can keep him for sure. But that's one. Then Miles Robinson's the other. If he's going to go, he's got to go now, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. And, we've talked about Miles in the past already, and he's as good as gone. And, we can talk about all day, whether it's front office's fault or whatever. But, yeah, we just wish him the best. He'll land in a good spot, whether it's PSV or elsewhere. Seems like he'll land in a good landing spot. And I feel like PSV is a good fit for him. I mean, it's a big club in the Netherlands, maybe not so much on the global scale as maybe an Ajax from a Dutch standpoint, or certainly not a Man City or a Man U or Liverpool, clubs like that. But still a big enough club in Europe that he can make an impact and boost his status.
Maybe. I don't know if he's fully gone or not. Like, Garth keeps saying he's got a contract. That they've got an offer out to him and it's on the table. And you see, and again, maybe the rules change here, or maybe they all privately meet and talk about a change happening. But maybe he wants to, maybe he stays. I mean, he's one of the things I thought about, we talked about before the season, and it's come to fruition, is he is a big part of the publicity, right? Like, he's on commercials, he's on billboards. He's one of the main players. He's one of the longest lasting players on this team, right? He's a huge part of it. I think that they've done a good job with that, as far as, making him kind of one of the spokespeople for this team. Maybe that's something that's important to him. I don't know. We don't really know what he's thinking, and we're not going to really know until we find out if he signs an offer or goes to somewhere else in MLS or leaves MLS. But it's an interesting thing to see here. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when he does leave, right? Because agents love to talk. Maybe we find out what that offer was. Maybe we find out why he stayed or why he went. But if I'm MLS, and this is just a whole other conversation we have another time here, you're starting to get on the publicity everywhere, right? Like, and not in a good way a lot, especially with this Messi. Like, you see, here's how defenders in Saudi, stop, corners or whatever, and then you see somebody tapping a Messi goal and having an own goal on it. Like, I think you want to increase the quality of this league. And like, I've had conversations with my friends about this so far, and like, they're like, man, like, does MLS players suck this bad? Like, and Messi's just doing this good? And I'm like, well, Messi's a good player, but yes, the quality, especially at some positions, and center back is definitely one, right, where teams don't throw a ton of money into that position here. Like we've
Unless you're
talked about
Nashville.
it with other announcers, right? Yeah, Zimmerman's like the exception here. So what do they want to do after this? And if you add a Fort DP spot, I was thinking about it, like, yeah, this is really going to help. Miami's going to get a Fort DP slot as well, right? And then they're going to go get some other crazy player to come in here that's just going to make them even better. So you're going to have to be smarter here, but it's definitely like what you can do in the middle of the roster. I think that's the most important here, the depth on the squad. But what do we know? I mean, MLS is absolutely dominating this Leagues Cup right now, and it was the exact opposite of what I thought was going to happen. So good for them, but I didn't even really put into account that all these teams had to come here and basically move to the U.S. for a month. But
we'll see.
Yeah, speaking of Leagues Cup, and we'll hit on this real quick. Obviously, Miami and Nashville would be playing the final. Miami winning, of course, and then Nashville beating Monterrey 2-0. So they'll be playing on Sunday at Geodis Park. And then just real quick on the twos, LA United 2 losing 5-1 to Leading Revolution 2. Just the other night, they'll take on Red Bulls 2 on the 21st. So we'll be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, like we said, Sunday night, League Cup final, Miami and Nashville. Who you guys got real quick, super quick? Just say who you have.
Well, the twos.
Miami.
The twos, well, for me, Miami. I mean, I think you got to go with Miami.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good
They
game.
win by more than 3 goals?
Probably not.
I think it'll be close. I actually think it'll be close to like a 2-0. Personally, we'll see. I don't know.
I say Miami. Yeah. They probably agree with it.
We'll talk more about the twos on the other side of this because I don't want to skate over it necessarily. Quick shout out to Edgar, our fellow Galaxy podcaster, media member, everything else. So quick shout out to Edgar for the donation. Gotta give him a shout out. So
Thank you so much.
yes, absolutely. We truly appreciate it. So Bruno saying 5-0 in the Leagues Cup. All right. So with that being said, because we have somebody here who is going to be wonderful to talk to about the Leagues Cup and about Atlanta versus Seattle. It is Francisco X Rivera, who is joining us, I believe, from the West Coast. Am I right?
I'm unbelievable. I'm really close to LA. I'm in Calabasas, California, but
Nice.
This is Atlanta summer weather. We're at 110 today.
Oh, my word.
Gross.
Kind of like going to those games. I've been very fortunate. And first of all, thank you for having me. I've been very fortunate to cover and to broadcast a lot of different games, especially when Mexico has played in the Gold Cup and Copa America Centenario and so many friendlies. And I love Atlanta. It's a city that really grew on me. I don't miss the weather though.
Nope.
But I do feel now talking to you guys, and we are 109 and 110 now that I'm in Atlanta. I'm sort of transporting myself there right now.
Yeah.
Right.
You just got to crank the AC and let it run for the whole summer.
Sure. Yeah.
It's awful.
And then you go to see, and then you'll be in Seattle this weekend. I haven't seen the forecast for Seattle, so hopefully it's a little cooler for you.
It should be fine, and we usually stay very close to the water, actually on the water, and the stadium's really close to the water too. So it should be great. I'm looking forward
Nice.
to it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, Francisco, I guess really quick, I got 2 quick questions for you. But the first one, if you just want to kind of give everybody the rundown, I know you've had a quite a storied broadcasting career, especially recently, but just kind of take everybody through what you've been doing, how long you've been doing it, and who you've been doing it for.
Well, it's been 16 years. Been very grateful. I actually started while I was in college. I started with Fox Sports en Español, which now became Fox Deportes, calling baseball. And this is really interesting because I did like 10 World Series in a row. And with the Braves being so good, I never did a Braves World Series because that was a time when they were not that good. And I grew up in the 90s, and I used to Greg Maddux and John Smoltz and Tom Glavine. I didn't get to see any of that. I actually saw Greg Maddux in the Dodgers. I saw Glavine with the Mets. So that was really my start, calling baseball. I started doing soccer shortly after. My first gig with MLS was with the Galaxy back in 2007. I did some Chivas USA games as well in 2011 and 12. I went back to work in the studio with the Galaxy from 2013 to the 15th. Then 2018, I was very fortunate to be chosen as one of the first radio broadcasters for LAFC. 2 years later, I became their Spanish TV voice, and so that's been a great run calling MLS. Obviously, starting with Apple TV this year, which has been an amazing. I'm not going to say only accomplishment, but I feel very fortunate to be doing it. And besides that, sort of my daily routine, I work in the NBA. I work with the Clippers. We have a Spanish platform called Clipper Vision. Actually, you have English, Spanish, Korean. We were the first team to try to do the online thing, and things are going well. I call games in Spanish for the LA Kings. I do mixed martial arts, NFL, news here in LA. So a little bit of everything. It's one of those things that doesn't quite stop. But MLS has been quite an integral part of my 2023, and so very, very fortunate to get another run and doing what I love, which is soccer, and obviously a league that has given me a lot.
Well, we appreciate you coming on because holy crap, it sounds like you don't have any time at all. Like that is wildly busy. So that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. And then again, just Atlanta is a team that I've seen from very close since they came into the league. I admire what they've done. Gonzalo Pineda is a guy that I respect, admire, and love. So I'm so happy that he's with you guys right now. You have a great one.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to dive into that conversation for sure, because this is, his first time back to Seattle. But before we do that, I wanted to ask you, just because we're on the tail end of it now.
Yeah.
What's been your overall thoughts and kind of just opinions on everything going on with the Leagues Cup?
Well, I mean, I had the Nashville group. So I did Nashville, Colorado, and Toluca. And Toluca was the most impressive team until they were not anymore. I mean, they were scoring 4 goals a game. The game against Nashville, when Toluca won 4-3 in Geodis Park, we were joking about this is the best game that the Leagues Cup has had, and we didn't have Messi in it. It was insane, the back and forth. And Toluca is a team that's characterized for playing an aggressive attacking style, and Nashville is not too far behind. So it was incredible. And just to see them against Toluca and against Colorado, this is a team that I respect a lot. I mean, Walker Zimmerman, a guy that I love from his first days with LAFC. They have a lot of very, very talented players. Aníbal Godoy, who I've seen before with Panama playing a different tournament. So now they got Sam Surridge, who's been amazing. So I've, they grew on me. I had never been to Nashville before. And, music is part of my life. And I had an amazing time going to the Country Music Hall of Fame. And I even drove to Memphis to go to Graceland. And so to me, Nashville was a great experience. It's not my LAFC, if you will, that reached the final, even though I forecasted LAFC against Inter Miami. But at the same time, I'm glad Nashville got there. They treated us real well when we were there. So I'm happy for them.
Yeah, and you mentioned the tournament, you're calling matches in the Nashville group before Messi got there. And of course, after Messi got there, that just changed the whole trajectory of things, not only from a tournament standpoint, of course, but MLS as a whole. And, of course, Messi hasn't played a league match, so everyone will be watching to see, okay, what will happen with Inter Miami once league play kicks back up here in a few days. So how have things changed from a standpoint of exposure and on the field? How have things changed in those regards on the field, not just on the field, but from an exposure standpoint since Lionel Messi has come to Inter Miami and MLS?
I think talking to some friends who are in the sports agent business, they tell me that some guys were still very hesitant to come to MLS, especially in Mexico. I mean, you've seen guys like Rodolfo Pizarro, who actually had to exit Inter Miami because he had that last designated players slot, right, that Messi got. Or recently guys like Carlos Vela, Chicharito. There's still some guys, from what I've heard in Liga MX, that still want to make the jump to Europe first. But now that Messi is on the fold, I think everyone wants to come to MLS and play with Messi, play against Messi. I think guys have been struggling a bit. I was listening to your conversation before. I think guys defensively obviously have been struggling against one of the top 3 players in this sports history. I think that a lot of times, I mean, you look at plays and you look at replays and you're like, how did this guy concede this kind of space? But at the same time, I think mentally, it's got to be killing the defenders. I mean, they don't want to look bad. Maybe they're aggressive and then over attack, and then Messi makes a move, he dribbles, and then you're laying flat on your butt, right? So I don't think they want to embarrass themselves. So I think they're playing conservatively. But the great thing about sports in general and the day and age that we live in, there's a lot of film. So, I mean, obviously you cannot control. He's one of the best ever. You cannot control him. But maybe you might be able to neutralize some areas here and there. I don't think he can dominate. I mean, no one can dominate at that level. And I don't know, maybe I'm going to eat my words. But, he's been incredible. The pace and the rate that he's been keeping is incredible. But I think, this is a world-class league. More great defenders are going to be coming in, taking on the challenge. So I think it has to change a little bit. It has to slow down. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, and you were talking about it too, just from the roster makeup standpoint, roster building standpoint, the financial aspect of it. I'm sure that owners are going to be looking to, or some owners will be looking to the league and say, hey, you know what? We want higher quality players on our team, so we can neutralize players like a Messi or whoever is kind of the next big name to come over to MLS, especially as it looks to expand itself as a much bigger league that it's portrayed to be, or it has been portrayed to be in the past. So from that standpoint, where do you see things going from just your personal viewpoint, from a financial standpoint and from a roster building standpoint? Do you feel like we see changes relatively soon in that regard, or will maybe take a little bit longer to say, like, about the time the World Cup comes here in 2026?
Well, you know what? I've been very fortunate to follow this league, even starting as a fan in 1996, watching that first final between DC United and the Galaxy, and then moving to this country, being able to start working, in the league. And my first job with the Galaxy in 2007, that's the year we got David Beckham, right? So I got to see firsthand and talk behind closed doors about, what's going to happen, all the rumors, how much is he going to make, how many sponsors is he going to get, how are they going to be able to afford him? Because I believe there, guys were not being paid that much. I think the minimum at the time was $17,000, right? So this is a structure that's been developed with time, right? And then in 2015, I was working for the LA Galaxy, and I got to break the news of Giovanni Dos Santos coming to MLS. And I remember that's when we got GAM and TAM and all that good stuff. So I've seen those develop so far with the years. And I think it's great. I think it's changing. Now, we cannot forget that we live in the U.S. These are U.S. leagues, and we have a model of salary caps pretty much everywhere. Any other sport that you can look at, luxury tax and all that good stuff. So I think we really can't get away from that. I think it does make sense, but at the same time, definitely there's going to be something that we're going to need to look at. Leagues Cup, I think the sample size is very small because all the games were played here in America and in Canada. But at the same time, when we look at CONCACAF Champions League, the success rate has not been there, right? Pumas obviously losing to Seattle a couple of years ago. We thought LAFC was going to go all the way this year, and they're upset by Leon. That's where you think, you know what, there might be some kind of roster tweak or structure tweak that might allow MLS teams to battle and to compete more consistently against the financial power that Liga MX has.
Well, then you even look at it, how many players, this is just one transfer window, so we go into the next transfer window. Who's willing to get paid absolutely nothing just to play with Messi? And then another friend does it, and then they get sponsorships, and that's how they're getting their money. Like, this could really get out of control very quickly, depending on what these players, what they want to sacrifice to be able to play with Messi here.
100%. And I've seen it closely with LAFC. When you see they build a roster, and they're a really good roster, and all of a sudden season 2 comes on board, and they're like, well, we're going to have to sell some players. I mean, Walker Zimmerman, we're talking about it with Nashville, is a perfect example. They just couldn't afford Walker Zimmerman. They had 3 DPs at the time, right? And then it's kind of like they start being successful. What happens with year 3, year 4? There's some like Jose Cifuentes that just left to Rangers. How long can you keep a guy like Chiellini, who's not making as much as he probably was making with Juventus? So Diego Rossi, another perfect example. He was the heart and soul of this team besides Carlos Vela. They got a great offer. They had to sell him and carry on and try to look for somebody else. I think it was Chicho Arango what they brought. They also could not afford Chicho because they already had a few DPs signed on, so they had to sell him to Pachuca. Same with Brian Rodriguez going to America. We have to give a lot of credit to the scouting departments of the teams here in MLS because I don't think they get enough credit because they've been doing an incredible job because this is, believe it or not, sometimes a league that's going to help a lot of players to get to the next level, to go from Brazil or Argentina to Europe and to the best teams. Like Diego Rossi went to Fenerbahce, was one of the powerhouses in Turkey. And, you know, I talked about Jose Cifuentes leaving to Rangers. With Atlanta, we saw the same thing with this guy that was killing it and then went to Newcastle. So, you know, it's part of the league. It is what it is. But at the same time, our scouts have been incredible to keep on, you know, discovering this young talent, not only from within the U.S., but from Mexico and South America. I think we're spoiled. We have some of the best scouting units in all of the world.
For sure. Well, moving on to Sunday, it's a big game. Two teams that have not played in a long time. It feels like they haven't played in months. The Garth Lagerwey derby. What are your initial thoughts of Seattle and Atlanta?
Well, first of all, there's a couple storylines for me, but the first one is that I haven't called an Atlanta game since 2018 when you guys beat LAFC 5-0, Tato Martino against Bob Bradley. And I felt so bad because I was so jealous of Atlanta United back then. What that team did was spectacular. I mean, the roster was great. I'm a fan of Tata Martino, despite the fact all the problems that they had with the Mexican national team. You know, I think he's a very good coach. They obviously won the title in a short time. I think with me working for LAFC at the time, I wanted this team to become what Atlanta United had become. That was the year when you guys got this. Excuse me.
Look at that.
But now I don't feel that jealous because
what a flex.
LAFC,
I know, right?
LAFC was able to win it. So I'm super excited. I know the roster has changed a lot. Brad Guzan is one of the guys that have stayed since 2018. So no, I'm definitely excited to see, you know, a team like Atlanta that left in very, very I don't know if I should say early fashion or surprising fashion, but they had that game against Cruz Azul. It could have gone either way. And a team like Seattle that you know likes to go forward, that likes to attack, that has some of the loudest fans in all sports. So no, this is definitely a game that I'm looking forward to call.
So, like you said, there's so many storylines with obviously Pineda. Ozzy Alonso is going to be another one who probably I think we'll see some time at some point during it. But just in terms of both teams together, what are some of the matchups I think that are you necessarily looking for with you know, sides of the field, wings, midfield? Obviously, midfield has been a big factor in Atlanta's not so recent success.
Yeah.
But you've got a lot of new players coming in as well that Atlanta brought in. Seattle, not so much. So what are some of the matchups on the field that you're kind of looking at?
Well, I think the wings, whatever Atlanta does covering the flanks, because you have two guys that run like devils. On one side, you have Leo Chu, the Brazilian. On the other side, you have Jordan Morris, and they can also flip sides. So those sides, the sides, the flanks are definitely what Atlanta is going to have to pay a lot of attention to. Obviously, the battle in the trenches. Joao Paulo is one of the best players that we have in MLS. MVP candidate every time he's around. He has to deal with some injuries. And they also have Albert Rosnak, who's a guy that with Real Salt Lake, we saw him more as a link to the attack. And here he plays a bit more as a defensive, as a holding midfielder. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to what the battles in the flanks and what the wingbacks from Atlanta can do. How aggressive are they going to be? Obviously playing on the road. But one interesting fact, talking about storylines that I wanted to throw out there. So Jordan Morris, when he made his debut with the national team, and I'll never forget about this because this is a game that I got to call with FS1 back in 2015. He was in San Antonio. He was still playing for Stanford University. Funny enough, one of the guys that was part of our studio team that day was Gonzalo Pineda. He made his English language debut as a broadcaster with us at FS1 in that game. So I hadn't met Gonzalo before. I had seen him play at the stadium in Mexico, watch him on TV, always a fan of what he's done, but I had never met him. One of the nicest, sweetest, kindest soccer players I've met. Incredible. What a heart. This guy, yeah, like he grew on me right away. An amazing guy. We clicked. And it was very special to work with him. that time. And I bring Jordan Morris to the conversation because he comes in the second half, and I was working the sideline. I was by the Mexico bench, and we can just see this guy going up and down, zoom, zoom, going back and forth, so fast, so strong. The Mexico defenders were going nuts. I don't think they knew much, because this is a guy that was you. How can you scout a guy that's playing for Stanford University, right? So this is not a guy that was playing in MLS or in Europe or South America, whatever. So they had a really tough time containing him. So since that day in 2015, both Gonzalo as a broadcaster, as a teammate, and Jordan Morris as a winger, they grew on me. So that's one of the storylines that I'm really forward to talking about in this matchup.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's something that, especially down here in Atlanta, hasn't been brought up a lot. People kind of forget that he had a brief broadcasting career for like right at a year, maybe.
Now in English, that was the only one, because he signed with Univision right after.
Yeah.
And I think Univision saw, okay, this guy was not only a very good player, but he's super smart. He's good at analyzing things. We're going to give him a try. And they snatch him right away. So, props to him. So I think, talking to a lot of the friends who play the game professionally, they're like, whenever we have that interim period between playing and coaching, and we go to broadcasting, it helps you so much. I mean, Giovanni Savarese with Portland is a guy that was a broadcaster for a long time before taking that Timbers job. So, even though with that being said, I believe that really helped Gonzalo a lot becoming a manager in MLS.
So you take a look at these two teams, and Seattle right now, toward the top of the table in the Western Conference. That being said, their form has been a little bit shaky before the League's Cup break. But yeah, right now 36 points, fourth place, a point behind LAFC and RSL, 5 behind St. Louis. LA United 35 points, 7 points, or I'm sorry, 7th place currently in the Eastern Conference. Where do you see both teams ending up in the final regular season standings, and what's kind of the ceiling for both teams? I mean, are either of these teams that could get hot down the stretch and make a run of the playoffs, or do you feel like their progress will be relatively limited should they make the playoffs?
Well, I am a little surprised that Seattle is not doing better than they are. I think their season has been fairly inconsistent, but you talk about how close these divisions or what conferences are, and they're just 4 points off St. Louis, right? But I've done a few games of theirs this year, and there's one that I can point to, or there's actually two. When they played St. Louis FC at home, and St. Louis came like this hot team. I had just done a St. Louis game in Utah, and they were amazing. They destroyed Real Salt Lake. And all of a sudden, I see them a few weeks after, and Seattle destroyed them. 3-0, no problem, right? And then I got to go to Seattle again a few weeks later. I'm looking at the dates right now. It was May 31st. And San Jose was able to beat them. And San Jose, that was not a fluke. San Jose played a pretty good game. It was a back and forth game. So with the roster that they have, with the skill that their players have, with the dominance that their stadium has, I'm surprised to not see Seattle on top. And St. Louis has been an amazing story, but I believe that with Seattle being so successful the last few years, you have to become a little complacent, if you will. It's hard to keep that pace, especially you're talking about a team that we were used to seeing the finals every year against Toronto. Those battles in the cold were epic, right? So new players coming in, some injuries, but they still have the foundation. I mean, this is a team that I expect to go very far. And then again, look at them closely the last few years working for LAFC. That was a team that you wanted to hate, because that was a team you would never wanted to face, right? The almighty Seattle Sounders. Now, looking at the conference right now, I think Cincinnati is in another level right now. And I'm actually reading off the table. I think New England and Philadelphia are right there. They deserve to be where they want to be. Nashville could be it. And I think, Atlanta, if those moves and these new players work, I think they have the foundation to fight for, I would say, 4 or 5, somewhere around. I mean, it's a tough one. You have Columbus, was an amazing roster. They just lost Lucas Alarayan, but still have a good roster in number 6 right there with Atlanta. It's a tough one, man. I mean, I think for the United fans to for the team to be where they want to be, the fans have to be, I wouldn't say satisfied, if you will, but it's a comfortable place. I mean, right now fighting against some of the best, but at this point, I think Cincinnati has played at another level.
So you're talking about the remaining schedule for Atlanta. Just a quick kind of side byproduct. You've got Cincy twice.
Okay.
You've got, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have Columbus one more time.
Sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Sydney, Tommy. You still have Miami at the Benz, which is going to be wild.
Got Nashville.
So, I mean, like, that's the thing. I think these players that they brought in,
And
like
then
you said,
at Philly,
much,
to add that in.
at Philly. That's another one. God, it's not an easy schedule coming up. These last 10 games are definitely tough.
I was just looking at the games right now, man. It's a killer schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, with all due respect and because of the parity of this league, the only game that I could say would be winnable is Montreal. Like, I'm not going to say easily because, with all due respect to all the teams here, but with what we've seen this year, I think Montreal, maybe the visits to FC Dallas and DC United, man, otherwise this schedule's loaded. It's not a great place to be in. But then again, I mean, there's always these great stories and you don't expect teams to do well against certain teams. And, I was just mentioning that the Seattle San Jose game and at Lumen Field and how San Jose came up with the 3 points. So, these guys played for a reason, and there's sometimes teams that underperform. So, anything can happen. But at this point, I don't think it looks that bright for Atlanta United looking at the schedule.
Well, they have 4 new players coming in too. I mean, Miamba is able to play, and we saw a very short stint of him, and he looked good. I think he brought a lot to the midfield. Now the question is, can you get these guys in quick enough, get them used to playing with everyone else, get some chemistry, and be able to go on a run here? And I think that's what they're hoping for here. And I think only one of the 3 that we signed at the deadline are actually here. Is that right, Tyler?
Yeah, you're looking at I think Saba is on his way, should be here by the end of the week, allegedly. And then let's see, Jean De Silva is the one that is here. Obviously Muyumba, and that leaves Tiare, who is the other one alongside Saba Lebjanidze, who we'll see. We'll see if they show up in time or not.
And that's, one of the things where you have to give credit to Lionel Messi is that we're all enamored with this super teams, right, in MLS. It's not that easy, man. It's not that easy to put a good team of players together with chemistry. And that's where in such a short span of time for him to be doing what he's doing with Miami and the new players coming in, you have to admire that. I mean, I know a lot of teams are like, it's a whole league against Messi now. Well, you have to give him a lot of credit because a lot of times we think it's like in basketball, right? We think, oh, we get the big 3 here and the big 3 there, and these guys are going to lead us to the championship. And sometimes they flop. It's not that easy, I think, in any sport. So, but especially in soccer, as we talk with a salary and the structure, the financials, and all that, it's not that easy to put together a super team. And then even if you do, you bring in a lot of players, man, you only have like 10, 12 games left. How much of that chemistry can you bring into your team? So yeah, it's still something we're going to be able to see with Atlanta, hopefully for them to make the playoffs. I know Pineda was obviously a team player during his playing days and a guy with good chemistry with his teammates. So, I'm hoping he can bring that magic that he had as a player now to his coaching role with Atlanta in the second half.
Francisco, last thing for me is, Pineda's been here for a while now. He made the playoffs. They went on a run when he came in that last quarter of the season. They make the playoffs, and then they get knocked out the following year. If they don't make the playoffs this year, do you think Pineda is here next year?
I think one of the things that I like about MLS compared to Liga MX is the patience. You kind of follow that process, that quote unquote process that people always talk about. In Mexico, it's kind of like you lose 3 games and you might be done. I think MLS has been much more respectful of that, not only with the national team, but within its teams. I wouldn't make a change, to be honest with you. I know it's a tough Eastern Conference. There's also been a lot of turnaround since Gonzalo took over. I think with Atlanta, you're a little spoiled because of everything Tata Martino provided. But then obviously the things with Heinze and how much you change a roster for a coach or a general manager to approve it, all of a sudden you have changes not only in the bench, but as you mentioned with Garth coming in as an executive, it takes time. It takes time, but as I said, that's something that I respect from MLS and from the U.S. Soccer circuit in general, that they tend to respect their coaches and are a bit more patient. So I really hope that not only he's successful this year, but he's able to give you guys a lot of satisfaction in the next few years.
Francisco, we'll cut you loose here in a second, but I do have a non-football question.
Sure.
So I was on your Twitter account earlier. And by the way, Francisco is on Twitter at FX_Rivera. And I saw that a couple of years ago, your friend Colin out there in LA introduced you to his dad, who is a fairly well-known actor, Academy Award winner, movies like Forrest Gump, Big, Bachelor Party, Toy Story, etc. Yeah, that was what it was like meeting Tom Hanks.
I mean, arguably one of the best days of my life. The thing that I like about my job the most, yes, I get to call legendary matches from different sports. Yes, I get paid fairly well. Yes, I get to travel a lot for free.
You get a pretty sweet ring too.
Exactly. You guys got one. Yeah, you guys got one, so I don't feel that jealous anymore. But being able to meet a lot of my heroes, and a lot of times befriend or start a relationship in any way, working or not working relationship with some of my heroes has been incredible, from rock stars to athletes. Like, I was talking to Gonzalo right now, right? A guy like that who, I got to work with him, and it was incredible for me. But it's been a good run. So Colin Hanks is a huge fan of the LA Kings. He's actually a huge soccer fan. He's always sitting at front row with LAFC as well. So we've been able to talk hockey and soccer very frequently. So there was a time when, one of my jobs or my roles with the Kings, not only as a Spanish radio broadcaster, but I'm also a consultant for Hispanic marketing. So a lot of times I see some of the celebrities that are coming, because I get that list because a lot of those guys are guys that I bring, singers, soccer players, musicians, you name it, right? So I get to see the list, and that time I saw that Tom was going to be there. So I went to, he was sitting, ringside, and I went to call him. I'm like, oh, so is your pops here? He's like, yep, he's right here. I'm like, can I meet him? He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. You never know how people are going to react, right? Sometimes it's kind of like people say, don't meet your heroes because you'll be disappointed. So you never know. You ask, and, you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes you get the goods. Sometimes you get the not so good side of someone. So we walked to the platform seats at Crypto.com Arena where Tom was sitting, best seats in the house. And Colin goes to his dad, and he whispers in his ear. I don't know what the hell he said. I don't know how much he sold me. But I see Tom's eyes going up towards me, and they lit up right away as if he had been a superstar. And he's like, hey, man, how you doing, man? So you do the Kings game in Spanish? I'm like, yes, sir. I love what I do. This is amazing. But let's talk about you. I told him, big. And when I was growing up with my dad in Mexico, my dad, by the way, is watching. So, Papa, saludos.
Awesome.
For us watching that movie together, it was a great bonding experience when I was little. So I started telling these stories about his movies and what he's meant to me and my family relationship. And also my wife is obviously a huge fan of his work, Forrest Gump, and we watch his movies. And then he's like, so this is something you do where? On the radio, online? I'm like, oh, we're both. We're AM radio, we're online. He's like, where can I listen to you? And the moment he said that, I was like, are you kidding me? Inside my head, I'm like, this is a dream come true. Tom Hanks is asking me where I can listen to me. I know with this busy schedule, he might not get to, but at some point I'll probably, throw Colin, one of our demo reels, and maybe he can pass it on to his dad. But it was just incredible. He was one of the sweetest people that I've ever met. And that's not an easy feat, because as I said, I've met a lot of people from, Justin Bieber to Tom Hanks at Crypto.com Arena, to Rob Zombie, to, guys from Linkin Park, you name it. And those guys that I mentioned were super nice, by the way. But there's some others that I'm going to mention that were not too nice. So then again, we can never take for granted a superstar of that stature being nicer or kind-hearted. So it was definitely one of the favorite days in my life.
Francisco, just quick story. So I am a huge Anaheim Ducks fan.
Okay.
And I hate the LA Kings with all of my passion. And there's one night Colin's on on Twitter talking about a dirty hit that the Ducks did, and I went back at him. And the next morning I wake up and Colin's tweeting me. And then throughout the day, I'm messaging back and forth with him, arguing hockey. He's a very passionate hockey guy. And I'm like sending these tweets to my wife. I'm like, I'm in a Twitter fight with Colin Hanks right now, the star of Orange County. And we went back and forth for, I don't know, about a good 4 or 5 hours. And that was a highlight of my life. And I'd never even met the guy.
Well, it's interesting because, as you said, he's a very passionate hockey and soccer guy. And he's the guy that will go for hours. We had a chance to bring him up to the booth with us once. And we did some kind of like a bilingual guest star invitation to him. And he called the game with us. And you can tell he's very knowledgeable. I think he's played the game as well at some point in his life. But he's a guy that the first time I met him, I saw him wearing like one of those 90s LA Kings jerseys with a Chevy logo. And I'm like, oh, he's got his name or Wayne Gretzky or Rob Blake or Luke Robitaille in his back. But he had a guy from the Czech Republic by the name of Igor Liba that if you know who he is, well, props to you, because I wasn't really familiar with him. So that tells you kind of like what kind of hardcore hockey fan is. So I do believe you 100%. That's definitely Colin.
Stupid Kings.
That's awesome.
And there's one more story that I want to leave you guys with as well. That's going to be very emotional, because talking Seattle and Atlanta, you brought up Osvaldo Alonso, and I hope he goes on the field. And the relationship that Cuban players have with Seattle specifically. It all started in 2005 with a guy by the name of Yuniesky Betancourt, who was one of the best defensive shortstops that I've ever seen. So Yuniesky settles in Seattle, and a couple years later, he's able to help Michael Galindo, who played for Chivas USA, was a very good player, establish himself in Seattle. And I think a couple years after, that helps Osvaldo Alonso also come to the U.S. and settle in Seattle. So I think it's gonna be special. It's gonna be emotional. People love him. By the way, played almost 300 games there. Yeah. So not only Gonzalo and what he did with Seattle, but Osvaldo is one of those guys that has an incredible human story. So hopefully I get to call one of his plays, or hopefully he makes it onto the field. It'll be amazing.
Yeah, I think it's really good, because that's one of the things we've talked about it here a lot. But Ozzy's story is just really, really cool. I mean, from front to back, and then when you meet him, he's just the coolest guy. He's super nice, and he's so just humble about everything. But you look at his story and you're like, wow, man, this guy, he's been through the ringer for sure. But
100%.
It'll
you know what?
really
He's
cool.
the nicest until he makes it onto the field and he lets up the switch, and that's a whole different story. Don't try to get into trenches with him.
That's what we love about him. I remember the beginning of last year before he had his injury. I think it was playing against Charlotte. He ended up sending the whole Charlotte team out of the bins with a fine for mass confrontation, because he got into it with I forget who it was, one guy, and then got them all riled up and turned around, walked off doing this, and they all ran after him. And then 2 days later, they all receive a fine for mass confrontation. I was like, this is great. I love this guy.
Love it. And you know what? Following baseball for a long time, and baseball being one of my loves when it comes to sports, the flavor that Cuban athletes put in sports, I think it's great. And getting, I mean, we don't have, unfortunately, too many Cuban players in MLS, but the few of them that have come here have put on amazing spice and amazing flavor. So, definitely a fan of Osvaldo Alonso, and just can't wait to see him on the field again.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. Well, Francisco, we appreciate it. We appreciate the time. You're welcome back whenever. You got an open invite for sure.
Thank you.
I don't know if you're going to be in Atlanta anytime for any of the rest of the games, but if you are, we'll be up in the media booth. So come say hey.
Man, I would love to. I did a few games for FS1 when Mexico played their friendlies, Gold Cup, Copa America Centenario. But my last time there was for the Super Bowl. I was doing Spanish radio for the Rams.
Okay,
When they lost to New England.
Yep.
And that stadium is incredible. You guys have I mean, we're fortunate to have BMO Stadium for LAFC here in LA, but you guys are spoiled. You had a monster of a stadium, and I love it. So I can't wait to go back. So I'll definitely, next time I'm there, looking forward to meeting you guys in person.
Yeah,
of course. And next time you see Tom Hanks or Colin Hanks, put in a good word for us.
Yeah, 100%. There's a Ducks.
Don't go
right
Ducks.
I'll remind Colin of that fight with Tom.
All right, Francisco,
Awesome.
We really appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
It's been great. Thank you for inviting me, guys.
Gracias. Hasta luego.
Gracias.
Thanks.
Man, I hate the LA
Great guy.
Kings.
Yeah.
Tommy, you can't do that with our guests. Come on. Gotta keep that inside.
Passionate
Well, I
hockey
think
fan over
he
here.
brought up the Hanks family, and I was like, oh, that's just a random celebrity that I've been in a Twitter fight with. But I woke up the next morning. Those games are at 10:30 at night. So I wake up at go to bed at 1:30, and I wake up at 8, and I'm like, why do I have like 13 alerts from Twitter? And it's, I'm in the fight with Colin Hanks right now about something, and the star of Orange County. I don't know what else he's really done. I know he's done stuff, but that was his best movie.
Tom Hanks' son. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, at the
But I
end
guess
of
he's
the
more
day-
than that, though.
Oh, he was in King Kong.
Oh, okay. There you go. That is a really cool story, though.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
funny. That's
And
great.
really cool that his dad was watching.
Yes.
That's
so,
awesome.
well, gracias to Francisco's father.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
So, really quick, I want to touch on something that he brought up, and it's because it's such a big storyline, and this might light the chat on fire. I don't know. We'll see. But we were talking with Jeremiah Oshan earlier on our Patreon episode, and one of the things that he brought up was the decline, quote unquote, and I think he said this in a different way, but he talked about how Seattle over the past roughly 2 years, year and a half, they won Champions League, which that's going to carry you a long way, but the overall product in MLS play has been not as great as it was. I mean, Francisco just talked about how, Seattle for a long time was the team you did not want to face, and they're still respectable. Like they're not going to be a cakewalk by any means. But he brought up that a lot, like he emphasized a lot of Seattle fans still look at Gonzalo Pineda in a very favorable light, and they love him, and they attribute Seattle's decline to around the time that he left, because he was the quote unquote tactical guy, tactical genius, the one that was doing all these things. So my question to y'all is, what do you think? Is it a Pineda thing in Atlanta? Is it he hasn't had the roster that he had built up in Seattle that was more steady and you had consistency? Or is he just not the head coach material? I'll tell you what I think in a minute, but I'm curious what y'all think.
I think it's not having the players that are right for his system, and the fact that he's a first-time head coach. Because in Seattle, of course, Brian Smetzer was the head coach and he was the assistant. So the level of work, the level of preparation, the level of motivation and match day support wasn't nearly as much as it is right now that he's the guy. So I think part of that is a lot to consider as to why he hasn't been really successful as a head coach for the most part since he's been at Atlanta. But at the same time, there is credence to the fact that maybe the players that he's been given, the personnel that he has, isn't quite conducive to what he wants to do. So I feel like both can be true at the same time. I think that I feel like he's learned. I feel like it hasn't always played out on the pitch. Obviously, we can't argue that. I mean, it's clear it hasn't always played out on the pitch. But I feel like as a coach, he's learned some of the more tactical ins and outs of preparation, match day planning, roster selection, things like that. Is he there all the way? Absolutely not. And I feel like that's one of the main things is he still has some things to learn as a head coach in this league. And Atlanta United took a risk when they hired him. I mean, granted, he was an assistant with arguably the most consistent and successful club in the league. But again, he had never been a head coach before. So, like I said, it's kind of both. I I feel like you can't have one conversation without the other, and I feel like you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater as well. So I feel like, yeah, he had a lot of impact on what the Sounders did and what they were like, and I feel like their success is partially due to him. And with these new players, A, let's hope they gel, and B, let's hope that this is kind of the expectation that these players that are more in this mold, in his style, can be the players that can really push Atlanta United back to the top of the table. What do you guys think?
So I would say it's C, all the above. Like you said, Sydney, there's a lot of things. So you have had situations where, and Taylor Twellman has mentioned this, that sometimes he's too late to make changes in games, right? And that's being still a new coach, right? Like that he's maybe just as not being in charge of some of these things that he's normally in charge, that he wasn't in charge of in Seattle, is things that he struggles with. And he's had games where the Philadelphia game, where I think it was a masterclass on what he did and the changes that he made at home, that he has a big win, but it hasn't been consistent. And I was thinking about this today because I've been really prepping myself for the NFL season. But you look at how the Falcons have been, and they've been in salary cap hell for 2 years, right? They've had a lot of players, kind of very similar to Atlanta United, where they've had players they haven't been paying for, that they've had spots that they really haven't been able to fill because they've got bad contracts. They've got to get rid of these bad contracts before they can bring better players in. They've had bad DPs. They've had just a lot of turmoil with that. And the coach of the Falcons, Arthur Smith, hasn't really been judged for these past 2 seasons that he's been there, because they know of all the problems that he's had to deal with. He's had to deal with a roster that just hasn't been good the past 2 years. Now they finally cleared that out, and this season the expectations are on the Falcons and on the coach now. Take that to Atlanta United. Okay, what did they admit to at the beginning of this year? Garth Lagerwey said, we've got clear a lot of contracts out, and we've been doing that since last offseason, right? I mean, they've moved players, they've moved DPs, they've been very smart on how they've been offering contracts going forward. They've been removing players. So I could see this going, both ways. They could say, all right, we're getting you the guys that you want, and I'm sure he's more involved now. I'm sure Garth has, maybe Bocanegra maybe hasn't always respected. I don't know, I'm just guessing. But maybe hasn't always listened to Pineda on what he's wanted. But it seems like Garth's a guy that is a group project guy. We're all going to get together. We're going to see what's best for this team. So they might keep him next year and say, here's our expectations going in for next year. You have to do this. My other way of thinking it is, Garth Lagerwey said, we're aiming for a top 4 playoff spot, right? This was before the year, knowing what this roster is. They might not, we just said it. They might not even make the playoffs this year. And with this club being a very high-profile team, Garth Lagerwey being, new here, he might want to hire his own guy. I don't know. I'm not sure which way they really feel about it here. But, there's an argument for both sides. And still, though, this is still a very talented team, right? Like Emilio says in here, the improvement this year without the injuries of 22 have been minimal. There haven't been a lot of injuries here, and it's still a pretty decent roster. So that's why I'm thinking here, there's expectations thrown out here, and if you don't even make the playoffs, and Garth has already said, we want to finish in the top 4, to have a home playoff game, and you don't even get there, it might be the right angle. That's why I like asking all of our guests that come on here, what do you think about Pineda? Because I want to get other people's opinions besides us, because I think we all have our bias, right? There's just people, I hate Pineda, get him out. I want someone new here. I want to hear what the media says about Pineda and what they think. And they all say he's a nice guy, right? Everybody says he's a great guy and he's very smart. But should be the head coach of one of these bigger teams here? I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think unfortunately for Pineda in this instance, you would have a little bit more leeway had you not done what you did in the Open Cup and then not done what you did in the Leagues Cup, which is get knocked out in the first round. It's very tough to then go look at the rest of the season and say, well, he'll be okay if he doesn't make the playoffs this year. I think at this point that leash is much shorter. I do think, because I've seen him in training, I've talked to him, I've listened to him explain the drills that they're doing. Like, he deserves more credit than he gets in terms of what he's doing to try to fix things, which is why I always go back to, are the players executing? But then it's a catch-22, because if the players aren't capable of executing, you have to have your plan B and your plan C and whatever D, E, F. You've got to go, and that's, you know, something that some coaches just have, and some coaches have to learn it. I do think his coaching has improved, but I don't think he's maximizing what he's got in front of him. That being said, I don't know how all of these roster moves this summer went down. I don't know how big of a seat at the table he has, but if he does have a seat at the table in terms of saying, like, this is what I need to be successful, and he has them now here, or at least the majority of them, then I think his ideas could equate to a very successful end of the season, regardless of how difficult the rest of the schedule is. That being said, if they don't pan out, then it's tough to imagine him being here next season. And again, I know I've said it before. Francisco just said it. Sydney, you've talked about it. Every media member that's ever been around him, like, Pineda's a great guy. He really is. Like, he's a really nice guy. I would love to go have a beer. I love to go have an IPA, because I found out he drinks IPA. I asked him about it the other day. Yeah, get out of here, Tommy, with your face. But no, like, he's a cool guy. That being said, like, at the end of the day, this is a results business.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I hope he's successful, and I hope he's successful, like, to bring Atlanta back to the glory days of 4 or 5 years ago. But I just think at this point, like, that leash is getting really short, and so we'll see how it goes.
I agree. Yeah.
And it has, and you're right. Like, you look at the Open Cup, that was an embarrassing game.
Yeah.
Like, that was an embarrassing performance. And, like, there's just so many, like, we could talk about this for an hour, really think about it. Because, like, even this team was doing really good until all the international call-ups, right? Like, it was doing pretty good. It was one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. And then what happened? It went down. Well, Giakoumakis was in and out of the lineup. Almada was gone. Miles Robinson was gone. The backups to the backups were gone. So he's had to deal with a lot. And I understand other coaches have to deal with it. Maybe not as much as Atlanta, because you have so many players on international duty that are out. But yeah, there's just, like, you can, I've been watching too much Big Bang Theory. They always like, let's write a pros and cons list. Like, I mean, and that's really what we should be, like, we should do one day. I'm at the end of season 6. I'm officially halfway through the show now. Thank you.
Long.
I've really gone through this, but, like, yeah, I mean, we you know, maybe one night when we're bored, we should just write, like, a pros and cons of, like, everything, like, that's positive and, like, what's negative and, like, what he's had to deal with, because he has had to deal with a lot. Like, yeah, Giakoumakis has been in and out, and the only really option you've had is Miguel Berry. Well, Miguel Berry's pretty much has been replaced for the remainder of the season now.
Yeah.
He's the third guy out there. And he's not, there's zero chance he's coming back next season. So, yeah, I mean, he hasn't been able to, okay, maybe the injuries haven't been there, but the team, some of the roster selection that he had has been very limited because of these international calls, because of your high profile injury to Giakoumakis.
Yeah. And then my only counter, and it's really not even a counter, it's kind of piggybacking on that. We go back to Parkey coming on and the conversation we had with Parkey. And I thought it was very interesting what Michael Parkhurst, captain of Atlanta United when they were in the glory days, he had to say about the defense for this team. And, you know, I think a lot of people have, myself included, have talked about, you know, the defense in terms of, like, oh, do you play in a back 4? Do you play in a back 3? And kind of the way that it fits the style that you want to play. This team can score goals really in either formation, but at the end of the day, it's not so much about the formation. It's about how you're individually playing, and then how you're playing with the guys around you. And the center backs, just, I will never put it all on them. However, Parkey came and mentioned about Luis Abram and said he just didn't think that he was the guy. And he spoke about how, playing in a back four maybe fits some of these guys a little bit better because back four is simple. He said it's very much like, your partner back there. The wingers should know what they're supposed to do in terms of tracking back when they're supposed to, because that is their primary job. The wing backs is to defend. When you start adding in that back three, then things get a little different. And I think you do have to have that high soccer IQ like Parkey had to really make that work. But the guys around you have to have it as well. Well, Abram was advertised to everybody as a guy that had that high soccer IQ. And to hear a guy of Parkey's stature saying, I just don't think he's the guy, is very, very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Which goes back to that whole conversation about maybe the players just can't execute what it is Pineda's trying to get them to do. But then do you give him leeway past this winter time when they can go in and get another center back or two? Because you're not going to be relying on Noah Cobb next year. He's still too young. Miles Robinson may or may not be out. It's leaning towards he probably will be, but whatever. Parada, he's on a loan still. Like, we don't know if we're going to sign him or not. So the only one you really know for sure you've got next year is Abram. So taking all that into consideration when it comes to Pineda's job and Pineda being able to do what he needs to do, like, what do you, as Lagerwey, like, how much string do you give? It's a tough decision. Like, it's not as black and white as people make it.
It's going to be a tough decision just because he's the new guy. And, we don't know the changes that are coming. We've seen changes happen to this organization from top to bottom so far, right? But you still have two main things that you got to make a decision at the end of the year. Carlos Bocanegra and Gonzalo Pineda.
Yeah.
Those are the two biggest things that can alter this club completely for a decade, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's who's staying and who's going here. And at this point, before the season starts back up and, Francisco looked at the schedule and basically just said, "You guys are screwed."
Yep.
that's how I looked. That's how I looked at it. When you're bringing up like, "Oh, we got to play Cincinnati twice," and you got to play Nashville, and you got to play Philadelphia. I don't think this team makes the playoffs. And if they don't make the playoffs,
hot takes.
Yeah.
I mean, I might be wrong. I haven't seen any of these guys come in, the new guys come in and see if they can make a difference.
Yeah.
But as of right now, looking at this team, not knowing how these new guys are going to come in and play, I'm not confident. And, I think the complaint has been across the board, especially with Pineda's, when new players come in, Pineda makes the thing, well, they've got to, get situated. They've got to, understand what we're doing. You don't have much time left. You're running out of time here. You don't have that time to be able to get in. Now, Mayumba came in and did very well with very limited practice time, and there. So maybe these guys could come in and play immediately and make a difference. If they do, then sure, I think that they can get in here. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But this is a hard schedule, and this is exactly what we went into at the end of last season, right? The end of the schedule was very rough. The year before, when he came in, it was one of the easiest schedules left. They made the playoffs. They failed miserably at the end of last season.
Yes.
So, right. So now you've got just as hard as the schedule as last year. Can these substitutes these players coming in are much better than the quality of the players that came in last season at this time? Can they make that big of a difference to get you in?
Really quickly on that point, like last season's signings in the summer, you had Edwin Mosquera. That was when Parada came in. Like they were emergency signings, is what they were.
Yeah.
So exactly. I mean, really, a lot of last season was. I mean, you look at Cisneros, he had potential, right? Like, I'm not going to fault him for that one, but he just didn't pan out. And you're going to have some that don't pan out. That's just part of the game for sure. But last season was very much like a panic thing. This season, it does seem much more thought out. And I'll go back to what I've said this whole time. These signings, the summer transfer window was the big wild card because it's Atlanta bringing in guys, getting rid of a couple. The rest of the league making some changes. You don't know what the landscape of the league is going to look like after that window. Leagues Cup isn't going to tell you anything. So, I mean, besides Miami, but you're going to go from here, and you suddenly might have a midfield that can hold it down with Muyumba, and you suddenly might have wingers that are going to put in accurate crosses. If you look at Sean Da Silva, he went to this, St. Louis came down and played in this friendly the other day, closed door friendly, and he had 2 assists on the day. So, I mean, it's a friendly, whatever, but like that's a good step in the right direction. So, Be really, really curious to see if I'm positive about it, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I hope it works out. We'll see.
Yeah. So kind of segueing to Seattle, Doug saying on Monday that the club hoped that Saba will be here this week. We're doing this on a Wednesday, so I don't think he was here on Wednesday. They'll, of course, train on Thursday. I believe they're flying out to Seattle on Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're leaving Friday afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah, so Saba is maybe Doug saying he is fit, so no issues there.
Said he had asked for his own training regimen from the team.
Yeah.
To be getting ready.
Yeah. So that's a maybe. Sandy Silva, obviously, with the team, obviously has his visa, so will, of course, be available for selection on Sunday. And then Jamal Tiare, maybe next week, according to Doug. So he's out of the picture for Sunday. So all that being said, I would imagine, of course, Giakoumakis will start. We know that. I don't think Saba starts, does he, on Sunday? I mean, he's just coming into the team. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some time, though.
Yeah, 30 minutes, second half, you think? Or
yeah. See what he's about.
They did baby Mayimba, though.
What's that?
True.
He didn't come in. I mean, they had a very good chance to put Mayimba in against Miami, and they didn't.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Then play the whole match against Cruz Azul. So
yeah, it was definitely weird on how that was all handled. Like, the match is out of control. Why didn't you throw Mayimba in during Miami just for like a 15-minute run out, just to get out there and move? And then I think even Pineda said he didn't even expect him to play that full match. It was working out great, and Mayimba gave him I can do it, and it was an intense game, and he definitely brought it for all 90.
Yeah. So from a scoreline standpoint, and Seattle is a team that hasn't scored a lot of goals. And Atlanta, of course, has, but at the same time, kind of papering over the cracks because their defense has been awful. So the hope is that things hold to form in that regard, that we see pretty much the good Atlanta United show up and not the bad Atlanta United defense. Seattle, 29 goals. That is toward the middle of the Western Conference, so not terrible, but not great. And there's issues to be exploited. Seattle, we mentioned it earlier, their form hasn't been they've been pretty inconsistent. They lost both matches in Leagues Cup, and the form has kind of been up and down. Right before the Leagues Cup break. In fact, taking a look at the form guide right now for the Seattle Sounders, they had back-to-back wins at the beginning of the month, and then alternated a loss and a draw. Very up and down. Have not been able to sustain any momentum on their end and put together a string of wins. So with that in mind, with that being said, and also considering that this is a home match an away match, I should say, home match for Seattle, away match for Atlanta United, I think I'd be comfortable at this point with a 1-1 draw. Seattle, of course, have had their issues scoring. Atlanta, to some extent, have had its issues scoring. So I feel you go into a tough environment like Lumen Field. We talked about the 12s. The fans will be out in full support and full throat. I don't know if that's a full stadium setup or anything like that for the Sounders out there at Lumen Field. But yeah, it's a tough place to play. And all that being said, I think it's 1-1 draw for Atlanta United. That being granted, Seattle's 6-3-4 at home this year, so just as easily could be a win for Atlanta United. But I think a draw would be more conducive to where these teams stand right now, and that's without the new players for Atlanta United starting or with them at least getting a few minutes. So I'm saying 1-1 draw. What do you guys think? Tyler, Tommy.
What you got, Tommy?
All right, I guess the champ will go first or second. I'm going to say 2-2. I was thinking a 1-1 or 2-2 draw as well. I think getting a point on the road, having to travel across the country, it's always rough on any team. Whatever sport it is, traveling across it is rough. But I think this game's going to be special for Pineda. Obviously, it's big for Garth. It's going to be. I want to see how Atlanta United, what they've worked on, right? And I think looking at the training, report from last week, I think they were working specifically on defense and those mistakes. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that's what I read. If that's true, how does Mayumba, how does the defense all work together here to really solidify and stop making these individual mistakes, helping each other out? How does that end up looking here? Because that's a big change, Mayumba, from whoever he's, however they're going to end up working this midfield here. How does Sosa look? Does Sosa look better? How's the chemistry really forming there with the defense and the midfield? That's what I want to see here. The forwards all coming in and the offensive help, we should see that change probably a little bit more next week. But I think they're able to score goals, and I think Seattle's still going to be able to as well. So 2-2 draw.
I was initially going to go 2-2, but the more I think about it, and I've taught myself up, I'm going to go 2-1 to Atlanta. And the reason being is, like, a lot of it has to do with, yes, the wild card of you've got possibly 4 new players that'll be playing. Mayumba, yes, he played a little bit, but you got 4 new players that'll be playing. They haven't been scouted with Atlanta. Obviously, you can go look at all their video and everything. So there's lots there that you just don't know. You don't know. If you're Seattle, you don't know what you're getting. I mean, if you're Atlanta, if you're a fan, you don't know what you're getting. You still have Giakoumakis. You still have Thiago Almada, who can put the ball in the back of the net at any point. So it's not like you're just relying on these 4 new guys at all. However, it'll be nice. It'll be nice for these new guys to get integrated and just get up there and see what they're about, especially an away game against one of the loudest set of supporters that are in the league. So I think 2-1, but I'm going to give it to Almada and Giakoumakis. I mean, it'd be nice, cherry on top, if one of the new guys scores too, but I'm going to say 2-1. Hard fought 2-1.
Fair. Okay.
Seattle's vulnerable, right? Seattle's in a vulnerable spot. Like, they're not a juggernaut, but they have been decent defensively. So it's just going to be a matter of if Almada and Giakoumakis and whoever takes the field can break them down.
So at least a point.
Yeah.
We all agree, at least a point.
I think if you get a point, you come out happy. If you get 3 points, you're over the moon. But
for sure,
you just don't want to.
Especially with Nashville coming into town next week.
Yeah, because if you lose this one, that's 5 in a row that you've lost. So
across all competitions, yeah,
yep.
It's huge.
So,
This is really huge for them. You're on a long rest. There should be no excuse. I don't know what I assume the travel is probably the same. But if I was them, I'd maybe get there a little bit earlier than normal to prep for it and make sure that you're ready, and that the excuse of being off is, or that, travel is going to hurt you, that you don't have that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're flying out, I believe, after training on Friday, so they'll be there all day Saturday. So
same thing they did
good.
with the LA
Good to see.
match.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
you fought LA to a 0-0 draw. So we got that going for us, I guess.
Somehow.
Yeah. Brad Guzan, best game of the season.
Exactly.
So
all right.
yeah, I think that wraps it up. We
Final
touched on the
thoughts?
two beforehand. 5-1 loss. They got the crap beat out of them in the second half.
Jeez.
It was awful. They played well in the first half, but other than that, they fell apart. So, yeah, I think that covers it all. Again, we'll throw the quick plug back out for our new website, scarvesandspikes.com. Patreon.com as well is where you can go and subscribe, get on the Discord, get on the watch alongs. We'll be doing the watch along Sunday night for this match against Seattle. Also have the new shop up and running. You got a link to it here in the chat, but also it's over on our website. It's easy to find, very easy to find. Got some stickers. If you are a patron, you do get a discount that will be up and running in a few minutes. But other than that, it was busy stuff. But
We're
excited to
everywhere.
actually watch a game again.
We are taking over. Yes. I'm
Trying to.
excited for that too. Goodness. 3 weeks is too long.
Yeah, it felt like off
So much
season.
Big Bang Theory during that time. So
I'm
much.
sure.
I need a match. I need a match to
I've been
watch.
watching a lot of Gordon Ramsay during this off time.
Really.
Trying to see it, both literally and figuratively.
No swearing next show, by the way.
No, not at all.
Mild profanities.
Yeah, just a little bit.
This is like the greatest time of the year. Like you've got MLS is starting to get towards the playoffs. You're in the playoff push. College football is about to start up. NFL is about to start up.
Go Bills.
Basketball and the NHL are about to start up. Like everything's there's just an
Premier League
overload of
started back
sports. I'm sorry.
Premier League started back up.
Premier League
Yeah.
started back up. I played hooky on Monday to watch Manchester United win with no controversy at all.
None.
None at all. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's a smorgasbord of sports.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it.
Yep. Lots going on. It just could be a little less hot, and I'd be perfectly fine.
Oh, for sure.
So, all right.
FIFA came out. I got a FIFA beta. I started playing the new FIFA.
Oh yeah.
Not,
This-
no.
this week.
AFC.
EA Sports FC 24. Not FIFA.
Yeah, EA.
Whatever it's
FC,
called
it's-
now.
It's all right. They're making changes every day, but I got a beta code for it. It looks good. Atlanta United, they're up there. They didn't really do many updates in there, but they've got a couple of the new players in there. Mayamba's
Nice.
the only one that's really in there so far.
Very nice.
How does Mercedes-Benz look? The same.
Same. I don't think they really updated it. They put a weird train horn in it like mid last season. Like
yeah, dude.
complained
That's
about it.
awful.
And like mid season, like there wasn't when it originally came out, there was no train horn, and then like all of a sudden I turned it on and I'm playing the game and the horn went off right when the game started. I was like, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah.
It's
One of my
awful.
kids
I don't
walked
like
in
it.
Someone complained. There was someone that wrote to the manager of EA and was like,
I bet.
get the horn in, right? It's still there and it's still
Any horn.
uncomfortable.
When I got it this year, 23, I'm showing my kids and everything, and we're playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium and score a goal, and the horn goes off, and my kids were like, "That's not the horn." I'm so glad you know that. I'm so proud of you.
Yes. You race them well, Tyler.
Yes, I do my
They
best.
have. So here's the thing, guys. It'd be very easy for them to put it in because it's in Madden.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
correct horn is in Madden. I was playing the new Madden last night. It's in there. Like they could just literally copy and paste it.
dude, you could literally download the sound effect for just any train horn. This train horn sounds like it was made on like the oldest version of GarageBand you could ever find. Like it's so bad.
Wish they
It
just had like
is.
a little like bike, like a little horn in there, or like the little bell. We'll just put that in there instead.
Give a 1 out of 10. A 0 out of 10.
Yeah,
It's not
Point
good.
out.
Well, come
All
hang
right.
out with us on Sunday. It'll be a
Yes.
lot of fun. We promise. And wear pajamas, whatever, and
Yes.
come
Drink
hang out.
coffee.
And yeah, and we're gonna do spaces. I think the next day. I think that's our talk. We're still trying to talk this through, but it's gonna be too late.
It'll be
We
close
need
to 1
sleep.
o'clock in the morning if
We
we
have
were to
school.
start it.
We have school
Yeah.
on Monday.
Hasn't stopped us before.
That is true.
I'm
That is
kidding.
true. But
I mean, we'll do it next day. It's
I
all
think it
right.
also depends on how this match goes.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Maybe we'll do a
about.
quick like 15-minute on there, and
Yeah.
Stay
We got to
tuned.
tell all the Twitter Spaces peeps about our new website. So
yeah.
cool.
All right. Shall we go?
That's it. Let's roll. Good times, guys.
Good
We will
time.
see
Use the big
y'all
music.
Sunday, hopefully.
Who is or what is your favorite Tom Hanks movie? I say probably say Forrest Gump for me.
Toy Story.
Big Forrest Gump fan. Toy Story.
I hate
Okay.
Forrest Gump. I hate Forrest Gump. Big.
Big? Okay.
Remember Bosom Buddies?
No.
Can't say that I do.
Oh,
I've never
Bosom Buddies
seen
was
it.
like it was a TV show that was on like, I don't know, it was probably in the 80s, but him and another guy dressed up as girls because they lived in a female-only apartment building.
Yeah. I've
Bachelor
never
Party's
seen
a
that.
good one. Bosom
I'm
Buddies,
thinking
watch.
about Toy Story.
All right. Adios.
See you guys.
Go Atlanta.
Go Atlanta.